we have a blast on set. So when it was like those really intense moments where we had to be arguing with one another, when cut happens, we're just off in the corner, giggling, laughing, joking, eating together.
Well, how do you do, buckaroos? This is Joe Layden of Cowboys and Indians magazine, and it is my great pleasure today to be speaking with Mustafa Speaks, whom you may recognize as one of the stars of Joe Pickett, the Paramount Plus series now unfolding for your viewing pleasure. And on the show, he plays a fellow by the name of Nate Romanowski, who is a falconer, an outdoorsman, survivalist, and an all-around badass.
So let me start off by making a correction. He's a master falconer, and I
Oh,
have to, I have to let you know he's a master
pardon me.
falconer.
Pardon me.
No,
Pardon.
no problem. The
Give
correction is
credit
made,
where
so we can
credit
move
is due
forward.
now. Okay.
We can move forward. No, all good, Joe. So, no, when I read the script and I realized it was going to be an actual falcon, I was super excited. I was super excited. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Using a CGI falcon for Nate Romanowski wasn't happening.
So how much, rehearsal time? How did you get to know your falcon?
It's a great question. That's a great question. So I have no experience working with falcons, obviously, but I do have some experience just based on my background working with apex predators. My background is marine and environmental science. I'm an internationally published marine scientist specializing in shark behavior. So with that knowledge, with that background, I understand how predators work. I understand that whole world and have a respect as well as an admiration for them. So when I approached Nate Romanowski and approached this role, I wanted to approach it as a novice, training to be a master falconer. So I put in hours and hours and hours of studying falconry, studying falcons, peregrine falcons, red-tail hawks, and all the birds along the predatory birds, just so I can get an understanding of it. And then I actually put in the man hours. So I trained with a great trainer, and she taught me, she taught me everything that I needed to know to not only look like a master falconer, but to actually be a master falconer.
So do you still own a falcon? I mean, do you keep one around the house or?
I don't, but I do visit some places where I can at least interact with them. But I don't do it on a daily basis. I don't have it in my backyard. Wifey wouldn't let that happen. My wife wouldn't let that happen. No.
Years ago, I was interviewing Dennis Weaver, and he was talking about his time on the series Gentle Ben.
Mhm.
And he said, look, every time we did a shot where the bear hit its mark, that's the shot we would use in the show.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
didn't make any difference if I was off my mark or I had a
Mhm.
startled look on my, if the bear hit its mark, that's what we would use.
Right,
Have you had
right.
similar experiences with falcons and other wildy beasts on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. And we worked with ducks. Nate Romanowski particularly worked with ducks, and he works with the falcon, right? And anytime you're working with beasts or even children, right, which are beasts in its own right, I have 4 kids, so I can say that. Uh, when you're working with them, you just have to be ready every take because you don't know when it's going to be the take, and anything can happen at any moment. So you just have to be patient. I just had to be very patient, very present, and very ready, prepared at any moment.
What have you enjoyed the most about playing a character in this second season? What, you know, uh, arrow in your quiver have you been able to use
Mm.
the most, do you think?
I really enjoyed being able to dip into the complexity of his fear as well as his deep passion for protection. Because in season 2, we get to see where Nate is in his whole world and how he deeply cares for each of these characters, Joe particularly, and especially Cricket. And we get to go into his background of what he does. In the first season, we didn't see it. It was just all mystery and and intrigue about what his background was. But now we're exploring who Mark V is, and we get to learn who Nate is and who his friends are and how dangerous he truly is. So I thoroughly enjoyed the intensity and the heart and the layers that Nate gets to show with his soft affection for cricket.
With all due respect, I don't know if I'd want Nate for a friend, because it seems that, if Nate's your buddy, you're going to wind up on a hit list. How has that affected your interplay with the other actors? Do you get teased for that? Like, no, Mustafa, just go over there. I don't want to be seen hanging out with you. Somebody's going to take a
Yeah,
shot.
yeah. Actually, one day I had to go into the corner and cry because nobody wanted to have lunch with me. They were like, I didn't want to be a scene with Nate nor Mustafa, so get them over there somewhere.
Can you think of the incident, the emotion, whatever, that led you to start using Mustafa?
My name is originally Mustafa Speaks. And all of my friends and family call me Mustafa growing up. I've only used Coley in a professional setting, in my school. And then when I first moved to LA, people call me Coley because that's just how I chose to be identified. But just through my own personal journey as a man and as a young man, understanding myself, understanding my identity, learning who I am and what I truly connected to and am grounded in, I had to stick to the name that resonated with me the most and resonated with the people that meant the most to me, which is Mustafa. And that name has this very significant meaning because my dad decided to give myself and my siblings a name with meaning. He grew up during the Black Islam movement, and all of us wanted to have names with meaning. And Mustafa is an Islamic name that means prophet. So as I moved and as I understood who I was and who I am as a man and how I wanted to be identified and recognized, I went with Mustafa.
Now, what can you tell us about shadowboxing?
Shadowboxing is my baby. Shadowboxing is something that I wrote, created, produced alongside my wife. But it's a story about a man who is a struggling sex addict, and he's also dealing with having to be in a relationship with a woman that he truly loves and admires, but he's dealing with his past and he's dealing with his alter ego that that pops up at all the wrong times. So it's a dark comedy, and think of the vein of Nutty Professor meets Fight Club.
Uh-oh.
So you get all different dynamics of a man truly just struggling with addiction in kind of all forms, but then you get the comedy of him fighting with himself and alter ego. And this is something I'm really proud of because it made it to ABFF, which is American Black Film Festival, one of the largest film festivals in the nation. And it had really great reception at that festival. And everybody who checks it out seems to enjoy it.
So, do we have access to it now, or will we have access to it in the near future?
You will in the near future. At the moment, I'm just working some deals, trying to get a distribution deal. That's the ultimate goal, to get it on networks, live streaming platforms. And if that doesn't work out in the way I want it to, then I'm going to directly distribute it via other platforms. So you will get to see it, to answer your question.
Now, what about and on the 8th day? You've got a film coming up that is described as a neo-Western.
Yes, yes. On the 8th day is a project that I'm excited about that I just wrapped recently, and it's directed by an actress turned director, an amazing director, her directorial debut, Alexandra Chando. And we filmed in New Mexico, and that was an experience. I've never been to New Mexico before, Albuquerque particularly, and I enjoyed my time out there. But this story is about two brothers, quote unquote brothers. They ended up coming really close, but two men, petty criminals that go to a place in Texas from the big city of Chicago to collect a debt that their boss needs, but things don't go as they seem and as they plan. So you get this wild ride of these two guys becoming closer. And I would liken that to something like Two Guns with Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington.
Okay. And where do you fit into this?
My character is Jeremiah, who is the lead, one of the leads. It's myself, Jeremiah, and I get to work with an amazing actor named Darren Mann. He and I I mean, we hit it off really well on and off camera. So definitely an odd couple. Definitely an odd couple on screen.
Joe Pickett gets pretty dark and pretty violent sometimes.
Mhm.
But have there ever been days on the set when, you and your co-stars, you just start having the giggles? I mean, you just start looking at each other and you're supposed to be doing this dramatically intense scene, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have to take another take here. I'm laughing too hard here.
No, man, no, we do that very often. We have such a great chemistry, such a great rapport on set. Particularly Adila and I, we have a blast on set. So when it was like those really intense moments where we had to be arguing with one another, when cut happens, we're just off in the corner, giggling, laughing, joking, eating together. And Michael Dorman and I, we also have a really good time on set. So it happens often, and we get in trouble for it.
So no one is really intimidated by Mustafa as Nate.
Not unless I need them to be.
Well, thank you very much. Show is Joe Pickett. It is available on Paramount Plus. And here's an unsolicited testimonial. It's a great show. You should watch it.
All right.
Thanks a lot.